card has just taken place. Tonight we're joined by Sean. Good evening, Sean.
Evening, guys.
And we're also joined by Andy. Apologies that Andy's on his phone, but again, we're experiencing a few IT problems. Good evening, Andy.
Evening. Yeah, sorry about this, and sorry we're late doing the live. Few technical issues, but we'll get there.
So obviously tonight's show's in partnership with South Bank City Bar. Obviously, if you're in Nottingham, if it happens at the South Bank. Get yourself on there, sports bar, top quality. So moving on to tonight's card, Andy, you're the normal guy to talk us through a card, so I'll pass it over to you.
All right. We're gonna start at Tommy Fiore simply because Virgin Media are rubbish, and I paid £25 for a show that I only got to see an hour in, but that's for another day. So start with Tommy Fiore against Daniel Bacinski. I thought Tommy Fiore looked reasonably good. He's had quite a long layoff with his rib injury. The thing that confuses me is John Fiore's talking about him being like a young Golovkin. He comes out the ring, talks about he thinks he's able to win a world title, and then in the next breath, he's calling out a YouTuber. Don't stack up for me. He either wants to be a boxer and have the ambition of winning world titles, or he wants to fight a YouTuber for money. Which is it to be, Tommy? Don't want to dig the guy out because I quite like him, and I think he's a capable boxer. But I don't like how it all sounds, to be honest. I don't know about you, Col. How do you feel about it?
Well, first of all, I'd like to see John Fiore get his trainer's license, because that was an absolute debacle what was happening in the corner of the ring after each round. You know,
where he was talking to him from the front row.
Yeah, I mean, you got Alfie Little there, who's in the corner, who's a well-respected trainer, really just being a bit of a water bucket, a water carrier. I found it slightly disrespectful that Tommy was looking through the ropes when Alfie was trying to talk to him. Obviously, they've arranged this beforehand, but I just found it a little bit disrespectful. So, yeah, I mean, I always talk about the commercials perspective. So, good morning where you are, believe Little Penny. Good morning.
Morning.
So, Tommy Fiore is making the right noises. This guy came to have a go, to be honest. He was nice and rangy, wasn't he? But let's just slow down on the world title fights. I actually don't mind him jumping in with Jake Paul for a payday. I've told you that before. I think commercially, you know, the prize fighters, and it might have shut Jake Paul up once and for all to jump in with Tommy Fiore, who should obliterate him. But he's a long way off, long way off talking about world titles. So while Little Penny disappears, we'll move on to Sean. So Sean,
yeah, I just echo you said, really.
How far do you think he goes, Sean, levels wise? Where do you think his pinnacle is?
Well, I think you have to say at the moment he's at area level at best, really. But you know, the Jake Paul fight will be good for him, obviously financially. I mean, I know it's a bit dodgy to say this, but I wouldn't be surprised if Jake Paul actually gives him more trouble than who he's faced so far, really. So I think that at the end of the day could be a good learning fight for him. But I would say at the moment he's probably English title level, just below that at present.
Yeah, there's a little bit of irony here, Little Penny, because you're all the way where are you? New Zealand?
Yes.
And Andy's not even a mile up the road from me, and he can't get his laptop audio to work. Andy, it puzzles me, don't it, you, Andy? The guy's in New Zealand, for God's sake.
Well, I don't know, mate. I'll blame Restream, but there you go.
So, Little Penny, we're on Tommy Fiore at the minute. Do you want to give us your thoughts on Tommy Fiore?
Yeah, I like what Josh is saying. I like that fight between Jake Paul. In fact, that would be a very lucrative fight in America. Because Jake Paul, he does great on pay-per-view. I don't know.
You know why? Little Penny? I'll let that have your actually say in a minute. This annoys me. This whole thing annoys me. he does great on pay-per-views because all the little kids that follow him on YouTube, all his millions of YouTube followers that like watching him drink soda out of trainers, they all pay for the pay-per-view because they want to watch Tommy Fiore. They want to watch Jake Paul. They're not interested in boxing. They'll never be interested in boxing. This bring up the argument of this brings new eyes to boxing. No, it doesn't. It brings new eyes to one pay-per-view that Jake Paul's on. It brings nothing to boxing because do you see the millions on buying pay-per-views for any other boxing show? No. Americans boxing pay-per-view shows do nothing.
Except for Canelo.
Apart from Canelo.
Yeah.
By all accounts, Spence and Ugas at the weekend did terrible pay-per-views. And that's Spence. That's one of the best fighters in the world.
Yeah.
He does nothing, mate. But sorry for butting in, mate. You carry on.
Yeah, I think that Spence Ugas fight from the reports that they've been saying, I think it did about 240, 250 pay-per-view buys. But Andy, if we can get young people to watch boxing, because the undercard maybe we'll have Serrano, who knows? It will be I'm all for that. Because who else is doing it? Like, at least it's trying to do it.
And the thing that makes me smile is if Andy put on a pair of boxing shorts and he was offered 500,000 quid or dollars or whichever part of the world you're from, or millions and millions to fight Jake Paul, he would jump in the ring and sit as quick as Billy-O.
Of course I would. You know why, mate? Because I don't earn the money that a professional boxer earns. I'm not. Hold on.
Even if he was in Tommy Fiore's shoes.
No, I wouldn't. Do you know why? Because I'd have more respect for the sport. If I was a professional boxer,
I don't find it disrespectful.
What?
I don't find it disrespectful.
It is disrespectful.
I don't find it disrespectful.
I'm okay with it, Andy. I'm okay with it.
If Jake Paul wants, if Jake Paul wants to fight other YouTubers, I don't have an issue with that. If he wants to beat up other YouTubers in front of his YouTube fans, don't have a problem with that. But the fact of the matter is, little Penny, he's trying to pretend he's a boxer. He's not a boxer. He's a YouTuber that's paying his way. He's paying to make it look like he's a boxer because he's got that much money. He can do that.
But he's putting it in the gym.
Yeah,
he's got a fight deal.
He's not a professional boxer, though, Carl, and he's pretending he is.
Says who?
Says Jake Paul.
Because he comes from a YouTube background doesn't mean he can't enter the professional ranks. What's the difference?
He's pulling the wool over everyone's eyes, mate. That's the problem. Okay, let's see. Put him in with a professional boxer. How many professional boxers has he fought, Carl? I'll tell you, mate. None. That's the answer. None.
You can't hold it against the guy and call him disrespectful to the sport, especially what he's doing for the female game in the promotional business. That's not disrespectful. I don't know why you find it disrespectful.
So he brings
his arse off. I've started, so I'll finish. From training his arse off, and having a he does need to jump in with a pro fighter, but I just don't understand why he got so much hatred towards a guy when he's just trying his best.
Because he's been disrespectful. He's been disrespectful to the sport. So the comments on YouTube saying that he carries. Hold on, let me finish then. The comments on YouTube then, where he's going, I carry boxing on my back. That's not disrespectful.
So he's the only one to ever talk smack talk in boxing, is there?
That's not. He's not a professional boxer. And he's pretending like he is.
Pick some comments up in the side.
I can't. I'm on my phone.
So.
He's got those KOs that he did against those.
Oh, come on, little Penny. Don't tell me you fell for that. Don't tell me you fell for both of them KOs, mate. They want to knock my daughter out. He didn't land them.
You're not getting much love in the side. Jack Gladman says, Andy, that's utter rubbish. Yeah. Jake Paul has won silver gloves in the States. Look it up. Oof.
I didn't know.
Woo! Respect for the sport. Do you think that everyone and their mother having a belt is respectful for the sport? Come on now.
No, and I've said I don't agree with all these silver belts. I've said I don't agree with all these international belts. Completely agree with you there.
Innie says, I don't find it disrespectful because Jake Paul wants to be clever and call out boxers. He's got a pro license, so you get what you deserve. And then, Jesus, Andy, you're getting hammered here, kid.
I couldn't care less.
Andy's talking shit. He's talking shit to sell his brand. Who doesn't do that?
He's talking shit to sell his brand. Who doesn't do that? So he's calling out all these professional boxers. He's had a pop at Tony Bellew. He's had a pop at Tommy Fiore. But he don't get in the ring with any of them. He fights has-been MMA fighters that aren't boxers, that are takedown artists.
Just to play.
And then the last one was he gave Tyrone Woodley a Rolex before he went in the ring, and then Tyrone Woodley takes a dive. Wow.
Oh, I don't know about that, man. That punch
I do.
was expected.
Oh, he's got
come
it on.
on.
It's because his computer's not working. He's got it on him.
No, it's not
What
that
are
at
you
all.
going to say?
Well, I just want to say, with Tommy Fiore, was Love Island after he had his pro debut? I can't remember. But if it was, say if he took a year out to do Big Brother or whatever these reality things that he does, would you say he doesn't take boxing seriously if he has a year out to do that and then comes back? Would you have the same opinion?
Right, so did we not have this conversation on Thursday, mate? Where I said, is Tommy Fiore taking boxing seriously? Did we not have that conversation?
We did, but
right.
as I've seen with him tonight though, 1 minute he's mentioning world champions, and the next he's mentioning Jake Paul.
I've just said exactly the same thing, didn't I?
Yeah.
Sorry, Short. So Joe's showing you a bit of love, and just to show you a bit of balance. So Joe says, I've no interest in Jake Paul. It's a circus show, and he's right. However, before you start getting excited, Jack comes back in and says, and you just disrespected the likes of Chavez Jr., who won silver gloves.
All right, so Chavez Jr. didn't go on and become world champion and fight pro boxers. As soon as Jake Paul gets in the ring with a pro fighter worth anything and wins the fight and then has more fights and then goes on and wins titles, okay, Jake, I'll hold my hands up and say he's a boxer. He ain't a boxer, mate. He's a YouTuber that's got more money than sense, that's thrown it around and buying his way into boxing.
So Tiwi says, as a matter of what, Chavez Jr.'s existence in boxing alone is more of a joke and disrespectful to the sport of boxing than Jake Paul. Jake Paul's getting a bit of love in this sidebar, isn't he?
Yeah, must have a load of YouTube fans on there, eh?
Andy, Jake Paul's defense to that is that when guys like Canelo and Pacquiao first fought their first 5 or 6 fights, they were fighting nobodies either. They were fighting like cab drivers. If you look on Pacquiao's record and Canelo's record, the first 6 fights or 7 fights or whatever, no one's heard of these guys. At least Jake Paul's fighting.
With the pro boxers, though. With the pro boxers, Little Penny. With the pro boxers before.
Boxers with records of 0 and 6, 1 and 10, it's.
That's called Little Penny. In Britain, that's called a journeyman.
I do think you need to get over this not calling him a pro boxer, though. And I'm not winding you up here because he's got a pro license and he's got a top rank deal.
Yeah, fuck me. He's got a top rank deal because top rank see the amount of pay-per-view buys he gets from his little friends.
The commercial aspect, that's why they're interested. So
let's move on because we're just going to go around in circles.
I've got a couple more comments and we'll move on. So, Innie says Tommy went on Love Island because he got paid very handsomely for it, and just like Jake Paul managed to pick up a huge following on the back of it. Tiwi said, also, gentlemen, why are you spending so much time on JP? That's your point. Laugh out loud. Why not speak about Serrano and Taylor? Move on. Yeah, agree. Them legends wasn't headlining pay-per-views, come on. That's from Joe. And then Jack Gladman says silver is like novice ABBA in the UK, lads. Let's move on to next fight, Ananda.
Okay, next fight. Thank God for that. Next fight, David Adelaide. David Adelaide against
world title.
What?
Jake Paul to win a world title before Conor Benn.
Wow.
It's getting late over here, Little Penny. Can you tell?
I like Conor Benn, by the way.
Yeah, I do.
Oh God, David Adelaide against Chris Healy.
Chris Healy was in great shape, wasn't
You know what I don't get. I really back small old shows in the UK. I think there's some great fighters. There's some great fighters, very, very good fighters in small old shows. Chris Healy is apparently a central area heavyweight champion. Has he won that belt? Has he won that belt? I mean, he's 9-8, so his record's not brilliant. Well, he's 10-8. He's 9-9 now. His record's not brilliant, but to say that he's a central area champion, I'm very surprised. David Adelaide, did you learn any more from what he showed tonight, Sean?
No, I don't think so. I tell you what, a good fight with him would be is who is the rugby lad that Matchroom has signed? Only about 4 fights. I completely forgot his name, but
Ivan Drago.
No, he was managed by Sam Jones. He's got a big Essex following. His name's completely slipped my mind.
Oh, the Run for Ball.
Yes, yeah. I think he would be a good fight for Adelaide next, really. Johnny Fisher, that's the better.
Yeah, Johnny Fisher, yeah.
It's not a bad shot, actually.
Or why not the legend that is Babbage?
He's Bridgerweight now, isn't he?
The money's at heavyweight, though, isn't it, Sean? He'll step back up if the money's there.
Yeah.
Or Wardler, another legend. Fabio Wardler, throw him in with him. You know, these heavyweights have got to start fighting some active opponents sooner or later, haven't they?
I mean, David Adelaide's 9-0 now. David Adelaide's 9-0 now. Carl, where do you see him going from here?
I honestly don't know, because they seem to be matching him quite slowly, don't they? I can't believe John Fiore put the big sell on this guy, this Chris Healy, you know, that was even a live opponent. I know muscles don't win fights, as Tyson Fiore likes to say, but to come in 20 stone, that's heavy for any heavyweight, isn't it? So, yeah, Adelaide looked the part, good talker.
I mean, just one thing on Healy's behalf. He come in as a late replacement, and no one else wanted to fight. I mean, if it wasn't for him jumping in, Adelaide wouldn't have had a fight on the bill.
And I know Adelaide was very complimentary of him about that, wasn't there?
He was, yeah.
But you know, there is if you're a professional fighter, surely you stay in a certain condition, don't you?
Well, you'd like to think so, but not all fighters do they? Lots of fighters blow up, mate.
But coming back to
some of them,
coming back to Adelaide, he thinks he's in for world domination. He doesn't quite look big enough for me in terms of stature. He's got a bit of a David A thing going off. He's very quick and nimble, but I do wonder when he steps up in levels. You know, so the jury's still out for me on Adelaide. I don't know what the sidebar thinks.
Did you see this fight, Lil Penny?
When I woke up, there was this female who was singing the national anthem with the red dress. So
okay. So you saw just the Tyson Fury fight.
Little Penny. I hope you stood up as part of the Commonwealth.
I don't know.
Did you stand
I don't know
up?
the words. I don't know the words, bro.
Well, it don't matter about singing the words. Just stand up in honor of Queen Liz.
Queen Liz.
She will be disappointed, Little Penny, to hear you didn't stand up.
Okay, swiftly moving on. I think that's quite a good point in the conversation to move on. Very good fight, this next fight. Isaac Lowe and Nick Ball. We kind of said in the week, didn't we, that Nick Ball was a dangerous opponent early on for Isaac, and it kind of played out that way, didn't it?
Did I go Nick Ball?
You did, mate.
Thank you very much.
You did. And I don't. You might have been right with the round as well. I don't know what you said for the round. I
think I was as well. So if you know, I'd take a bow.
You do that, mate. I'll buy you a pint next time I see you. Isaac Lowe, for me, he came in with the attitude of he could walk through this guy, and this was going to be an easy night's work. And his defense was lacking. He was getting it with the same shot consistently. and then he got that massive cut, which changed the fight really. Because I don't think he could see out that eye.
No. When the doctor says, "Tell the referee if your vision's affected," I thought, come on, have a day off.
As if he's going to do that, yeah. But taking nothing away from Nick Ball.
No.
He was great in there. He managed to close the gap up because there was a big difference in size, and he managed to close the gap. Isaac Lowe didn't use that size difference one little bit. I think he thought he could just walk through Nick Ball, and by the time he realised he couldn't, it was already too late. What was the stoppage all about? Very confusing for me. So Isaac Lowe falls, well, don't fall through the ropes, but kind of puts his head through the ropes and turns his back. Surely, when a fighter does that, the ref's got to at least give him an 8 count. Surely, he's got to give him a standing 8 count, or he's got to pull him back in and stop the fight, one or the other. He did neither. And and even Nick Ball kind of took a step back after he threw the first couple of shots. He took a step back to say, "Well, you're going to do something here, then, ref."
Yeah, was it Victor Lochran?
Yeah,
I can't remember who was.
It was, wasn't it, Sean? See, he's normally quite a reliable ref. He must have had a bad night.
Just very, very odd. Very odd.
I mean, Nick Ball. I made a few notes because I'm a bit sad. I just put Nick Ball couldn't miss with that left hook all night. That's what I made a note of. And it was really poor from Isaac Lowe because Nick Ball was just rushing in to close the gap, wasn't there? And normally Isaac Lowe's quite calm and would be picking him off on the way in. But there's a comment in the side from Joe where he said he thinks he might be shot, and I think he might be right. I'll back you there, Joe. I was just about to say he hasn't got over that beating he took in that last fight. And it was a beating. He got put down in the first, he got put down in the second, and he got stopped in the 7th. Yeah, Ball had his number, didn't he? Let's be honest.
Yeah, but like I said, I don't want to take it away from Nick Ball, but I just don't think Isaac Lowe was at the races.
No.
Sean, how did you see it?
Yeah, well, as I said the other night, every time that he stepped up, he's lost. And I even tweeted Jordan Gill to say he would have stopped him easily, and he sort of agreed, funny enough. But, for Lowe, I don't see how he can recover or get any sort of traction now for his career, really, because he said himself, didn't he? If he can't beat Ball, he'll retire. But, he's had about, 5-6 different trainers. No one's got the best out of him, so it's hard to see how he progresses, really.
He probably just hasn't got it, Sean, has he?
No, absolutely.
So a couple of comments in the sidebar. Theresa is struggling with the phrase "a pint under," so he's put "a pint?" ? Got my Puerto Rican ass Googling the conversation of the conversion to ounce. Jack Gladwin said Carlisle's with you all by KO. Think I said it Thursday maybe. Time to join my world. Jack, if I was a penny behind you, I'd be okay.
Let's go back to the Puerto Rican comment. That's great. So do you want to explain what a pint is, Carl?
Well, a pint is what we measure alcohol in the UK. I wouldn't know what it is converting into I wouldn't know what to convert into metric. To be honest, I don't know, but it's just a pint of beer, fella,
It's how the good old English drink their lager, I'm afraid. Unless they're having shorts and then it's in a little glass like this one.
But yeah, Google it. So Joe says Paul from the ref should have stopped the action when Lowe was in the ropes. Correct. And Imi said very disappointed with Isaac Lowe. Camp went well with him, but he just lacks that next level. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know where Isaac Lowe goes from here. With his background as well, being a traveller, they're very proud men, aren't they? And it probably affects a traveller fighter maybe a little bit more than than some other fighters in certain respects, taking a loss like that, especially off the back of the other loss. You know, everyone was expecting him to come back and win this fight. Can I see him fighting again? Yeah, I can. But he's going to have to go back to the drawing board, in my opinion.
Let me just pick this up and down. So Teresa's come back because it's a family show. I won't. I will swear it's 12:15 in the UK. So he's put fuck it, as long as it's a big enough cold glass of beer. Cheers, homies. So
it certainly is, mate. It certainly is.
Yeah. Right, next fight. And,
next fight, sir. Nottingham's very own Echo Escherman defending his British Commonwealth and IBF European belt against Darren Tetler. I saw your comments on Twitter, Sean. Do you want to enlighten us a little bit more on that?
Well, he's anti-Nottingham anyway, so I bet he was slagging Esserman off.
No, Sean.
I was just saying, as we spoke about Conor Benn the other day, and we sort of said that Esserman could be a big test for him. I just sort of said Conor Benn wouldn't lose any sleep in fighting him, really. And I stand by that because after that performance he put in, what would Conor Benn gain from beating him till he's faced all right?
Yeah, I'd probably have to agree on the back of that performance. He looked like he didn't carry much power, did he?
No.
You know, I'm not sure he'd keep Conor Benn off. Little Penny, you wouldn't have seen this one, fella, because you're still in the land of Nod. So we'll make this quick and get on to Fiore for you. Okay, so... yeah, obviously he's a Nottingham lad, Sean, so I'd like to see him do well, but I do think British European probably his level. I don't think he carries the power to step up to world level. That's my honest opinion.
He was definitely off his A game. He's normally a pressure fighter, throws a lot of shots. He does carry power. You could tell, you know, the last two fights he's had, you know, when he won the British title off Jenkins, he broke his ribs. I can't remember what happened in the last fight, but I think he damaged somebody's jaw, maybe, or I don't know. I don't remember, but
he doesn't carry power like Jake Paul does. I don't.
Yeah, because Jake Paul's the man. He wasn't on his A game. I think it's a bit difficult to judge him on, or a bit harsh maybe to judge him on that performance. He did struggle a little bit. He struggled to get past Tetley's jab. When he finally did get inside, he was rushing his work a little bit. Not his best performance, let's say.
I think if you got aspirations of going to world level, you get someone like him out there, though.
Yeah, maybe, mate. You got an argument there. Not great from Echo, to be honest, but he is better than that. I promise you, he's a better fighter than that. Okay, moving on to the main event, which promised, you know, build up and all that. It promised to be one of the best fights, you know, we'd seen in a long while, and it didn't really, in my opinion, it didn't really turn out to be that. It was a bit of a damp squid. I think it pretty much happened the way me and Cole expected it to. Fiore on the, you know, keeping the distance, using his jab. He was very, very good, Fiore, in that he was showing White lots of different angles, lots of different shots, lots of feints. Lots of feints, and he kept White thinking, and then White starts overreaching to try and land shots, and then ends up being square a lot of the time. And not long before the knockdown, I turned around to my nephew and I said, if he carries on landing square like that when he comes inside, he's going to get knocked out. Because, I mean, the shot landed, the uppercut was fantastic. White was too busy watching Fiore's jab. He didn't see the shot coming, which is testament to the way Fiore was throwing the jab and feinting with the jab, and where he was throwing the jab. It was body, it was head. So he didn't see the uppercut coming. The uppercut landed, which was a peach. Because he was square, I mean, I think he was knocked out anyway, stood up.
He was.
But because he was square, he didn't. Fiore didn't have to throw a second shot. All he had to do was nudge him, and he went down.
It was gone, wasn't it?
Yeah, he was. Yeah. Bit worrying. Bit worrying long term for White, that, because he can come back again. But the worrying thing is
he's
that's
not
twice
world
now.
class, is it?
That's twice.
Let's not go around the houses no more. He's not world class. I've been saying that for how long?
That's twice now, though, Carl. He's been knocked out with an uppercut, isn't it?
Because he's not world class. He wasn't in with a mediocre heavyweight fighter this time. He was in with Tyson Fiore, and he looked like a rabbit in the headlights from the minute he got in there. I won't talk about Sean's prediction, but Sean thought White was going to win, which can justify that in a minute. He just wasn't good enough, and he won't be good enough. Tyson Fiore is just too good. That's my view. He looked frightened to pull the trigger for me. He looked frightened to pull the trigger.
Before we come to Sean, Lil Penny, what's your opinion on Tyson Fury?
Yeah, I was in a Joe Habib's or Ringside Reporters live stream yesterday, and I predicted that Fury will brutally KO White in the 6th round. So he went over that, obviously. But yeah, I think Fury is just too skilled. I also like Fury's right hook to the body. He connected that a few to DILLIAN White, which confused him a little bit. But yeah, I wasn't surprised that he got KO'd. Also, DILLIAN White, his power is sometimes a bit overrated, because I remember when he fought AJ and he connected with a right hook. AJ, looking back, AJ's kind of chinny, and he couldn't knock him out. And in fact, it was DILLIAN White that got brutally knocked out. And then with the one with Povetkin, with that uppercut, it wasn't like one of those thudding uppercuts where it was like a Riddick Bowe uppercut or a Mike Tyson uppercut on Frank Bruno, where it was so powerful. It was just timed right, and he got KO'd too. He didn't even try to get up. So
no, I think with that one, Little Penny, with that one, I think it was more a case of he didn't see it coming. And people say, don't they? You get knocked out by the shot you don't see coming.
Yeah, but yeah, it was a great performance by Fury. I hope he comes. He said, because I think he said that he wanted to fulfill like his promise to Paris, but I think he'll come back. I think he'll fight the winner of AJ versus Usyk, so that he can become undisputed again at heavyweight. And I think he might fight AJ after that, like just for a big money fight in London, to be honest with you.
So with you saying he might fight AJ after that, that means you think that AJ loses to Usyk? Yes.
But I think AJ will fight Wilder, and maybe AJ might win that. So then it becomes like a sellable fight. I think it's a sellable fight anyway, like, because AJ brings the fans in, and so does Fury. So
yeah. Sean?
Come on then, Sean. Let's be having you. Come on, Sean. Not that I'm reveling in your prediction, but let's hear your thoughts.
I have to say I'm very disappointed with Dylan. I can't lie. I mean, he didn't really even punch Fury, really, did he? Let's be honest. Yeah. And I think if Mark Tibbs was in his corner, I'm not saying that would change the fight, but at least he would have tried to punch Fury, I think. For me, something didn't look right, though. Why would he start southpaw for one? He's never been a boxer, so why has he tried to box in the fight? His only way to win was to close the gap, get close to Fury, and then land the hooks or the punches that he can land. And, I don't want to sort of put a sort of excuse in the way, but there was sort of rumblings I've seen online. I doubt they're true, but apparently his shoulder went, the same injury he's had in the AJ fight. But again, that's only hearsay. But for me, it's just a big disappointment, and I did predict him. I did want him to win, but I have to hold my hands up. I got it completely wrong, and as I say, as a fan of his, I'm completely disappointed, and I've sort of lost a bit of respect.
So I'll just put these comments up in the sidebar. So Caleb says Joshua is Fury's biggest contest at heavyweight. White is like, so Tui says White is like a comic book villain. Dude has a weakness and everyone just uppercuts him. Jack Gladman says White world level, not world class. Joe says first time Fiore used the uppercut, lights out. Couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. Obviously, Joe's a big Dillian White fan. So Therese also says stop. He whacks Joshua. So obviously he thinks Fiore takes Joshua out, which I do. So yeah. So
one of those comments was that AJ's Fiore's biggest challenge. Was it? Did I hear that right?
Yeah.
Usyk. Should be Usyk.
I think Usyk is, yeah. Usyk's got very good movement, and he's got a real good boxing IQ in the ring. He knows how to use the ring. If anybody, and my honest opinion is that he won't, because I think he's too small. But if anybody has a chance of getting close to Fiore, close enough to land proper shots, then Usyk's the only person that can do it.
Yeah.
But having said that, I don't think Usyk can do it either. I think Fiore's just too cute. He's too big. He's too cute. And himself, he's got a really good boxing brain. He works fighters out in the ring as they're fighting. I mean, that White coming out southpaw. White said something in the build-up. He said he needed to be adaptable in this fight. So was that him being adaptable, coming out southpaw for a round and then going back to orthodox? Because he didn't throw a punch in the first round.
Tyson Fiore showed just how limited Dillian White is.
White was just not able to get past the jab, mate. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. He just couldn't get past the jab. And if you can't do that with Tyson Fiore, you're having either a very long night or a very short night.
And he should have made it like an Orlando Salido type of a fight. Like make it a little bit dirty.
Well, he did.
He tried.
Yeah, how many times he put his head in, his elbows in, little Penny? You know,
he tried, little Penny, but to do that, you've got to get close.
Yeah.
And he wasn't. What I was a bit surprised about was Dillian White's got quite a good jab, but he didn't use it.
He couldn't get in range. He couldn't get in range.
No, that's what I mean. But that's why you use your jab, Carl.
No, he couldn't get near him to land the jab. He wouldn't.
No, but the point is, you throw the first jab and you move into range, and then you start double jabbing to try and stop your opponent throwing the jab back, and then you land your shots. He wasn't doing that though, Carl. That's my point.
That with Fiore because it's nonsense because he's got too much of a reach on him.
No, it's not nonsense, Carl.
It's
not nonsense, Carl. It's not nonsense, mate.
He wouldn't have got in range. Too small.
But you can say that. You can say that. But because he didn't try, how do you know? He didn't try it. He didn't try and throw a double jab.
Try because he's not good enough to execute it. That's the truth. He's a one-trick pony who's looking for the left hook all night. That's what he was doing.
He just didn't throw the jab, mate. It's as simple as that. If he'd have thrown the jab more, he would have had more chance of getting inside. I'm not saying he would have got inside and he would have landed bigger shots, but that's the way he should have gone about trying to get inside.
Well, I'm saying he's not good enough to execute that.
Coming from a White fan perspective, I have to say, I would rather him come forward than get knocked out by a hook rather than him not trying at all. Because for me, I don't think he tried. And as you boys know, I called him to win. I admit I'm wrong. But for me, that's almost the worst thing that he didn't try. I mean, as I say, if he fall onto a hook, got knocked out, fair enough. But losing the way he did, I mean, it doesn't sit right with me.
Hey, Sean, what was White just there to collect his paycheck?
No, I don't believe so. I mean,
he just wasn't good enough. That's the bottom line. He wasn't good enough to land this jab that you're talking about. He couldn't do it. He had a puncher's chance. That's the truth of it. Yeah. That's why he was rushing forward. He was hoping to land that Hollywood punch and knock Fiore out. I don't think he's even able to do that because does he punch harder than Wilder? No. So I'm not sure he wins a fight.
He got frustrated because he couldn't get anywhere near Fiore. He got frustrated, and the more frustrated he got, the more desperate he got to throw the big punch. So the more times he was coming square, and I mean every time he come forward, he was getting peppered. And then Fiore's not stupid. He'd have watched the Povetkin fight. He'd have seen Dillian White come square when he misses with a big shot, and he was just waiting for the opportunity.
And also, don't let me hear this crap about Fiore can't punch that I keep hearing as well. You know, people who kept saying he's not a knockout artist, he's got pillar fists. You told Dillian White that. That's
Wilder as well.
Yeah, that's
Wilder,
two opponents. What, you know, a bit of Kronk style in there now, isn't there? Where, you know, he's sitting down a bit more. He batters Usyk for me. Usyk won't get near him. I know people think he walks on water because of one good performance against AJ, who fought the wrong fight. But Tyson Fury's a complete different animal, as we all know. Complete different animal.
Hey, Carl, I reckon for Fury to be in the same or in the same conversation as like the all-time greats like Lewis, Ali, Joe Lewis, Fury needs to continue on. He needs to beat Usyk and maybe have another big money fight. I don't know whether it's against AJ or whatever. That way, and if he wins those two fights, I think he will be in that same discussion with Lennox and the Ali and all those greats. Don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of Lennox Lewis, and I'd argue his era is a lot stronger than the era that Tyson's in. I'd probably argue.
Yeah.
But then a part of me also says Tyson can only beat who's in his era. I think Lennox Lewis beats Fiore both at the prime. I think Lewis would have had enough ring craft. But yeah, he's got to be getting up there, hasn't he? If he takes care of Usyk and then maybe Joshua, depending where Joshua is in his career, I'd argue he's up there in British fighting history. To be honest, it might be.
Let's get the sidebars thoughts on that. My opinion is this: that Fury's very unlucky that he's in an era of poor heavyweights. Realistically, Usyk's the only world-class heavyweight apart from him. And he's had to come up from cruiserweight. Whereas Lennox Lewis had 5 or 6 world-class fighters, if not more, in his era. From the start of his era to the end of his era. 2 of them didn't want to fight him in the prime. Riddick Bowen and Mike Tyson. They both refused. They both dropped the belt because they didn't want to fight Lennox Lewis in his prime, which tells you everything you need to know. Do I think Tyson Fury could have hung in the 90s era?
Yes.
Yeah, I think he could have hung, and he would have beaten most of the heavyweights in that era. I would have liked to have seen how someone like Evander Holyfield would have dealt with him. You know, Evander wasn't a tall heavyweight. That's Tyson Fury's big attribute is his height and his reach. His ring craft as well. And he's got very good movement. The problem is you can't, and you're never going to be able to judge him against the 90s heavyweights and the late 70s heavyweights for the simple reason that this heavyweight era is nowhere near as good.
It's better than the Klitschko era.
Yeah. It's better, but then that's why Klitschko was champion for 10 years.
So a couple of comments in sidebar, and so Jack Gladman says Fiore's a crossover of 2 eras. So which one is it you're saying he's the best of? Just clarify what them 2 eras are for us, Jack. And then and then Caleb said Fiore beats Evander.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, you're probably right because of his size. Evander Holyfield
didn't
was
deal
a
with
very,
Lewis
very,
well,
very good fighter.
He didn't deal with Lewis very well, though, did he?
You cannot. Well, to be fair, hold on a minute. To be fair to Evander Holyfield, you can argue those 2 fights were close.
The rematch was really close.
The first fight, in my opinion, Lewis won easy. But you can argue they were close fights, and Lewis was really in his prime at that point. Holyfield hasn't been given the credit is deserved for what he's done in both cruiserweight and heavyweight. Probably because he wasn't a big heavyweight, you know. I think he's better than people give him credit for. He would have beaten He would have beaten everyone else in this era, maybe apart from Tyson Fiore.
Yeah.
He would have dealt with everybody else without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah, and I rate Holyfield highly because he fought all of the guys. He's the only one really in that 1990s era that fought everybody.
And he took Tyson apart, didn't he? Mike Tyson took him apart, didn't he?
He took Tyson apart. He struggled a little bit with Riddick Bowe, but it wasn't for one to try that Lennox Lewis didn't fight Riddick Bowe. Riddick Bowe, very famously, as you probably remember, threw the WBC belt in the bin.
Yeah.
Because he didn't want to face him. Because Lewis had already dealt with him in the amateurs. So Bowe didn't want to go anywhere near him.
So Jack's clarified them eras, Andy. He's put 2004 to 2015 was Klitschko. Then 2015 is current is modern.
Well, let me come back to Jack on that. I see where you're coming from, Jack, but you can't really say that Fiore was at his best in that era because the only person that he fought at world level in that era was Klitschko. If it wasn't for Tyson Fury, though, the heavyweight division wouldn't have become what it was.
He unlocked it.
He had to rip those belts from Klitschko for the division to become alive. So you've got to give him props for that.
AJ would never have fought that excellent world champion called Charles Martin, would he?
AJ wouldn't have been a 3-belt champion if it hadn't been for Tyson Fury.
For me, for Fury though, say if he sticks around for 2 or 3 more years, 2 fighters who I think he would have to beat to be considered a modern great are both Filip Hrgović and Jalayev, because I think they could pose problems to him that we haven't seen yet. Because they're both big and they've both got sort of Usyk level boxing ability.
You've got no chance, have you? Unless Hrgović picks a world title up, because they're not big paydays for him, are they? You may as well jump in with Otis Wallen then.
I suppose, say if he wants to do a Klitschko and sort of defend for a while, which I don't think he will, but then how will you define how well he's done if he only sort of has 2 or 3 defences against sort of upper to high level opponents?
He's going to have to jump in with the winner of Usyk AJ, isn't he?
That's the only fight he's going to fight, mate. He won't fight any other fights. And it might not be for 2 years before that fight happens. And will Fiore come out of retirement for it? I'm sure he will, because why wouldn't you for the sort of money that will be on the table? And it'll be itching at him, to be honest with you. You know, he's a fighting man, as he keeps on saying. It'll be itching that he hasn't faced. Ideally, for that fight to happen, you want AJ to win the fight because it's AJ that he really wants.
Yeah,
it's AJ he really wants to fight.
Was that his last fight with Top Rank tonight?
I really don't know, mate.
I've got a feeling that might have been his last contractual fight with Top Rank. Because then the plot thickens, then, don't it? Because you could go down the Crawford and Canelo route, and Mayweather route where broadcasting doesn't matter all of a sudden, and he could earn an absolute shed load of money. Very interesting.
Yeah.
So just a quick question to Jack, if you're still on, Jack. Where would you put Fiore in kind of the all-time level? If is he top 10? Is he top 20? Is he top 5? Sorry,
heavyweight history.
Yeah.
I reckon if he beats Usyk, right, and he beats Joshua, you'd have to put him in the top 10.
So Jack's confirmed that it was his last contracted fight tonight with Top Rank. He's also confirmed that he considers Fiore the best in the modern era. And then that guy says, White's Lucas Brand knockout was very overhyped. Earn did great things with Derek and White as UK boxers. Take nothing away from Fiore. A bit of a shove, but do your own work on who you're in with.
Would you still say at the minute that AJ's got the better CV out of him and Fury, though?
It's getting close now, though, isn't it, Sean?
Yeah, I mean, they've both got the 2 common opponents of White now and Klitschko. But other than the world, if you take him out of the scale, I still think AJ's faced the better guys at this moment.
The problem is, it's very difficult to say that because of how long Fiore had out with his issues. If he hadn't spent so long out of the ring and so long coming back, getting himself back into shape, he'd have a different CV, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
He'd have fought more fighters. He'd have fought better fighters. The problem is because he would have stayed world champion, wouldn't he? He wouldn't have had all the belts because obviously the IBF stripped him about 2 hours after he won the belt, which is absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, it's difficult to say because he would have had more fights. The problem you've got is Eddie Hearn did wonders with AJ. He got the right fights for AJ at the right time, and turned AJ into this gigantic superstar. He did brilliant. It was a masterstroke really with Eddie Hearn what he did for Joshua.
I mean, Andy, just to jump in, what I would say is Tyson Fury fought Klitschko in his prime, not when he was over the hill.
Yeah, I agree, mate. Yeah,
Dillian White's a better fighter now than he was when AJ fought him.
Yeah.
And Wilder is dangerous than anybody that Anthony Joshua's faced throughout his whole resume. So that's where I'm talking about. It's getting close, you know.
But Carl, I think the way you beat an opponent also counts. Like the way AJ knocked out Klitschko, the way AJ knocked out White. Like, for example, I think more people will remember that AJ versus Klitschko fight than the Fury-Klitschko fight, because that Fury-Klitschko, that was boring. Like, it was like one of those
But my point is, Lil Penny, that, you know, you could argue Klitschko was at the top of his game at that point, and Dillian White was almost a fight novice, whereas he's just jumped in now.
So is AJ.
No, but I'm talking about when you're comparing both fighters. I think Fiore's performances are a lot better against them two fighters in particular than Joshua's at the stage of the career that they are when he jumped in with them.
I suppose it's not too dissimilar, is it? Because White's coming off a big layoff fight in Fury, and Klitschko had a big layoff fight in AJ. So I suppose there's a comparison.
So it's a simple question then, Sean. Is White a better fighter now than he was when he fought AJ?
I think he was probably more dangerous than when he fought AJ.
Well, that's a politician answer. Are you a politician by any chance? So by saying dangerous, you mean he's a better fighter then, obviously, because boxing's a violent sport.
I think you would have to say so, because I think the losses against Povetkin took a lot out of him. So I would say.
And then Dillian White, so we clarify he's a better fighter now. And then coming on to Klitschko, who was the better version, the one that Fiore beat out in Dusseldorf, or the one that came in with his Zimmer frame into Wembley?
Again, it depends really, because you could say with Klitschko, he was getting too easy and he was getting too sort of complacent against he was fighting, and against AJ, you could say he was more dangerous because.
Come on. Are you seriously trying to tell me that Klitschko that got into that ring against AJ was more dangerous than the one that got into the ring with Fiore in Germany?
Well, in a way, I think you can say so, because there's no way that he sort of would take those risks against Fury like he took with AJ. He would never come in as reckless. So
why was that? Because he was coming towards the end of his career.
Yeah, I mean, you can answer it both ways, really, can't you? But you know, it depends what count you're in, really.
But Andy, that Klitschko versus AJ fight, that was probably the fight of the decade. Like, people remember that.
It was a very good fight.
I must need some sleep because
Klitschko.
That fight was like, yeah. Sorry, Andy.
Klitschko was way past his best, and he put Joshua down with a straight right hand. The problem is, because he was way past his best, he was knackered by that point.
Yep.
Had he been 5 years younger,
or Vitale,
had he been 5 years younger, he would have finished the fight in that round, and that would have changed the pathway for Joshua's whole career.
Or point it another way, Andy. Was that if that was Klitschko that got into the ring with Fiore in Dusseldorf, he would have finished AJ.
That's what I just said. Had he been 5 years younger, he would have beat AJ in that round. It wouldn't have gone any further.
Good evening, Caleb.
Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you, fella. You okay?
Yep, I'm good. A little bit, mate.
Yeah, it's not the greatest sound, I'll be honest.
Maybe
So
come
what-
back.
Yeah.
Do you want to leave and come back in and see if that improves it?
Okay.
But Carl, 50 years from now, no one will remember that Fury Klitschko fight. But people will remember the AJ Klitschko fight because that was one of the all-time great
I
heavyweight.
don't know what you're putting on your cornflakes over there in New Zealand. But don't keep trying to tell me that was one of the fights of the decade, because I won't wear it.
The problem is, Lil Penny, is that everyone's saying it. Everyone's saying it was a classic. It was only a classic because both fighters after round 6 were knackered, so they ended up having to trade. Tyson Fury went over to. You got to remember, nobody goes to Germany. Nobody. Let me just say that one more time. Nobody goes to Germany and wins a fight on points. Nobody.
Except for Daniel Gill, he did that.
Wow, there's a name from the past.
Wow. Yeah, but you get my point, right? There's been umpteen fighters that have gone over, beat a German fighter or a fighter that are class in their area as Germany, that have beaten clearly, and they've not got decisions. Tyson Fury went over there and schooled Klitschko for the whole fight.
And people call it boring. I think it was an exhibition of punch and don't get punched.
It wasn't the most exciting fight, though, Carl. Let's have it right. It wasn't.
Yeah,
I understand where Lil Penny's coming from, but you have to look. There's different aspects of boxing, isn't there? Everyone wants to see knockouts. Everyone wants to see exciting fights where fighters go down, get back up, and come back, and they put the other fighter down. Everyone wants to see that because it's exciting. But you've got to appreciate what Tyson Fury did, and the fact that he did, in the way he did it, he took all of Klitschko's attributes away from him, and he could do nothing in the fight.
Yeah, but Andy, I'm like I'll give you 2 examples. Like when Evander Holyfield beat Mike Tyson twice, right? But fast forward 20 years later, people remember Mike Tyson more because of how he beat opponents. Like he knocked him out. Another example is Pacquiao Mayweather. Mayweather is like I have slept with a lot of Mayweather fights, like with the Baltimore fight, with the Shane Mosley fight. I fell asleep in some of those fights. Whereas Pacquiao, I didn't because he was such an exciting fighter. I think 20 years from now, Pacquiao will probably be remembered more than Mayweather because even though Mayweather beat him, it's because it's the way he fought. Like and people remember that. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like with the AJ Klitschko fight, people will remember that fight more because it was so epic.
But Klitschko's style was terrible, wasn't it? It's difficult to look good against that version of Klitschko because you're only as good as your dance partner. You got to remember how he used to keep people on the end of the jab, didn't he? And then just come through with the right hook, and he was boring to watch. So I'm not sure Tyson could have done anything more at that stage, to be honest.
But
and also,
and the kudos to Tyson Fury though, because when he changed trainers, he changed his style, and he became like a more entertaining fighter, like with the Wilder fight, and now with the AJ fight. So with the White fight. So I'll give him full credit for that. That's why he ranks highly on my list.
It was still the man that beat the man.
Yep, and he'll do it twice too if he beats Usyk, because then he'll become undisputed twice. I think.
No, he wasn't undisputed. He wasn't. Let me just correct you there, mate. He wasn't undisputed against Klitschko.
Wasn't he? Oh.
No.
No, Vitali was WBC, wasn't he?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's the only belt he hadn't won at that point. Obviously, he's gone on and won it now, so he's won them all, just not all together.
Okay.
And I'd just like to put a point in about the Mike Tyson thing. I hear what you're saying. Mike Tyson's a myth, in my opinion. He was very, very good and very, very dangerous for 2 years. 2 years. And then he got found out. And he didn't beat any. Name me one real top end champion in the prime that Mike Tyson beat?
He beat Frank Bruno in his prime in '88.
I said any top end fighter.
I thought Frank Bruno was pretty good.
He want a world level top end fighter, mate.
Yeah. Okay. What about Berbick? Wasn't he the lineal champ at heavyweight at one time?
Was he top end though? Really?
No, but
that was Mike Tyson in those 2 years, those dangerous 2 years. When he came up against somebody that could box or take a shot, somebody that wasn't beat before they got in the ring,
yeah,
he struggled. He struggled against a cruiserweight.
Yeah,
but
it's the way you beat your opponent too that makes you that like a god. Because let's
I
be
get
honest,
I get that, and that's why Tyson. That's what I'm saying. He's a myth.
So Jack Jack says Spinks and Holmes both were world class.
Spinks wasn't a full on heavyweight though, was he?
And Holmes was over the hill, wasn't he?
Holmes was well past his best. Well past his best. But that's just my opinion, Jack. I knew it was going to cause controversy because there's lots of Mike Tyson fans out there. But in my opinion, he had 2 brilliant years where he was devastating. He was devastating. One of the biggest punches of all time. But he had that for 2 years. And then he come up against the very best in the division and he just didn't have it.
Yeah. Because Andy, you could argue in the 1990s that Mike Tyson and Michael Jordan and maybe Maradona in the early 90s were the three most popular sportsmen in the world at that time.
Mike Tyson was more infamous in my opinion though, mate. It was late 80s. It was what 88 to 90 was it? That Tyson had those 2 amazing years. And then he gets locked up and he become infamous. And then he comes back out and he's not the same person, not the same fighter.
And he unified WBA and WBC when he came back from prison. That's pretty good too.
Yeah, I agree, mate. I agree. And then he stepped in with better quality fighters and got beat. It's just my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
Lots of people will say I'm talking a load of rubbish.
Yeah, I actually rate Holyfield higher than Tyson because Holyfield beat him
twice.
Yeah, convincingly.
So the final topic I want to touch on tonight on a little penner is obviously Joe Parker's announced his next fight. And it is going to be against Joe Joyce. Now I think this is a cracking fight.
Yeah.
So little penner will come to you first. I think I know where you're going to go on this one, but who do you think takes that one?
Joe Joyce is like I like Joe Joyce because he brings the fight to you. I don't know. I think it's a little slow, but he does have a good chin, though. I'll give him that. But I think Parker just outboxes him, man. Just outboxes him. Because Joe Joyce, he's slow, man. It's like he's robotic. But I do give him that he's got a good chin, and he might trouble him late in the fight. But I think Parker outboxes him.
We've got his manager on the show on Thursday, so I'll let him have a look at this little penny when we interview him.
Who's your bet on that, Carl? Who do you think?
I'm actually going, and I'm not just saying this because of Thursday's interview. Andy will tell you I've been quite a fan. I've gone into bat for Joe Joyce a lot on these shows. This robotic style that people talk about and how slow he is, I just think he's being penalised because he's not a slick boxer. Everyone who spars him talk about how dangerous he is. I know you've got a comment in the side.
What's the comment, Carl?
So Jack Gladman says, "Little Penny, are you putting us all up if it's in New Zealand?" What did you think you are? Airbnb or something, Little Penny?
No, I'm in my house.
So yeah, I think Joe Joyce will beat him. I think it's going to be a very close fight. It will go deep. I think Joe Joyce will have that enough. And also remember, Joe Joyce is in a very good position in the rankings. So he must fancy this fight, or he wouldn't have taken it. Although he's just coming off surgery, I believe. But yeah, I'm going Joe Joyce to KO Joe Parker.
I think I'm right in saying, Carl, that these are number 1 and number 2 in the WBA rankings.
Yeah, so a lot on the line.
Sean, what's your view on this?
I think Joe Joyce wins. I think Joe Joyce is underrated by people. I mean, I know he gets stick that he can't speak, he can't sort of sell fights, but I don't think he needs to because his box does the talking for him. And I think, you know, although he may be slow and ponderous, he and half makes up if he catches you on the chin. And I think, you know, he'll stop him maybe sort of round 10.
So I've been one of these people that Carl's just been talking about that said that Joe Joyce is a bit robotic, and I'll stick by that. He is, but he's got probably the best jab in boxing because it's not just a jab, it's a weapon. I mean, look at what he did to Daniel Dubois. He's also got a serious chin and serious energy and a serious engine. He don't stop coming forward. My only concern is he gets hit way too much.
Yeah.
That being said, Joseph Parker's not the person to knock him out. I actually think Joseph Parker is a worse fighter now than when he first moved to England. I think he doesn't have a killer instinct. There was times in the fight against
AJ.
who did he fight? Chisora, sorry. There was times in the fight against Chisora, that last fight against Chisora, where Chisora was done after 3 rounds and Parker couldn't put him away.
Yeah.
He looked an old man in the ring and Parker couldn't put him away. And that's worrying for somebody in that position. Because if he can't put an old Chisora away that's done after 3 rounds, he has absolutely no chance of putting a gigantic man away like.
But he doesn't need to put him away. He just has to outbox him.
I don't think he can do that either, though, mate.
Really?
Yeah,
No.
I think I don't see how he gets past the jab. If I'm being honest, it's a real weapon. It's a real weapon, and I don't think people realise quite how good it is until they get in with him. Because he looks slow, don't he? He looks slow, a bit cumbersome, a bit robotic. He's like George Foreman, you know. He's got that kind of, I don't want to call it Frankenstein, but that kind of way of coming forward. You know, it's not slick and it's not the best on the eye, but it's effective.
But he doesn't have that power, though. He's not like George Foreman or like Wilder. He hasn't got that one-hitter quitter, though.
No. But what I meant was he's got the same sort of style as George Foreman. George Foreman was quite a robotic fighter, wasn't he?
He's still heavy-handed, though.
Yeah, he is heavy-handed. And his jab, like I say, his jab's not just a jab. He don't use his jab to set other things up. He uses his jab as a weapon. And not a lot of fighters do that in modern boxing. You know,
I think AJ's got more power than George Joyce, and AJ couldn't knock out Parker.
AJ didn't try and knock out Parker, did he?
Joe Joyce is a better boxer than AJ, though. I think he's got a potential of putting a combination together, whereas AJ fights in clusters.
Yeah, I do like Joe Joyce, though. I do like him because I like action fighters. That Dubois fight, that was a really good fight. Yeah, but I am a fan of Joe Joyce, but I don't know on this one. I don't know. We'll see. May the best man win, but I'm going with Joe Parker. I got your back, mate.
Jack Gladman says genuine 50-50. Both men really earned my respect.
Yes.
For this, even if I believe Farr beat Parker, I don't think Farr did beat Parker. I don't think it was a very good performance by Parker, but I think he just takes it in my view, Parker.
Who beats it?
And then Tui says, give me Dubois versus Anderson in the heavyweight division moving forward. That's an exciting match. So,
Jared Anderson?
Yeah, I'd assume so.
Oh, I like Jared Anderson.
But the winner of this will probably get a shot at Usyk or AJ, won't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
and that fight, I would say that fight could happen before either of them fight Fiore as well.
And I'll say it now. Joe Joyce will beat Usyk. There you go.
Wow.
What? No.
There you go.
It's too fast.
Record it and play it back to me when he lifts the belt.
But by the way, Carl, how come there's no site for the AJ versus Usyk rematch yet? Well, what's going on?
You tell me, little Penny. You're more connected than I am. But no, I'd imagine you got to remember a lot's going off in the Ukraine at the minute, isn't it? So I'd imagine that probably playing a part. But I know he's in training by all accounts. I'd expect something to be announced next week. You know, they might have wanted to let Tyson Fiore versus White get out of the way, so the announcement don't get lost. So I'd expect something in the next couple of weeks.
I hear it's going to be in Saudi. Oh, sorry, Andy. Sorry, Sean.
Come on, John.
I think, you know, when the BBC boxing guys report stuff, that tends to be true, and they seem to think it's Saudi Arabia, so I'll be pretty certain it's going to be there.
Why do you think he's chosen Saudi Arabia? I'm guessing Usyk's had a big say in that.
Money, the match fees, the rights to the fight, whatever you want to call them. Pure and simple.
Site fees.
Yeah.
And plus, that's AJ's kind of like second home now because he beat Andy Ruiz there, so he's comfortable there.
Yeah, he's not getting Andy Ruiz version 2, you know, with his snicker belly against. Yeah, he's not getting that, is he? He's getting a very primed Usyk that he's going to have a lot.
But Andy, Usyk might not be like mentally, because, you know, he's getting millions of dollars and his countrymen are getting killed. So
yeah, I mean, there's a lot to be said. That there's two arguments there, isn't there? He's either not going to be focused, or he's doing it for his country, and that's a very dangerous man. If he's come back because he wants to do it for his country, if he's you know, if you know, I'm guessing he's probably had conversations with very high people in the Ukraine that I can't imagine he's walked away easily. I think it's been a very tough decision, and that makes him very, very dangerous.
Is that the bit where it's another one that I predicted?
About what?
The fight taking place.
Yeah, you did. I didn't think he'd walk away. I thought he'd stay. Especially with Lomachenko staying and not taking that fight against George Kosis. I thought that because they're very close, aren't they? Usyk and Lomachenko. So I thought that Lomachenko would. I thought that Usyk would follow the same line. I thought he'd stay, but clearly he's made a decision for a reason. Because I don't think he would have been stripped. I think they would have waited as long as need be.
Yeah, they would never have stripped him.
They would never. You know, that's not a good look. They once took his belts off him. So there's got to be a reason behind him doing it, and I think it's probably a case of there's nothing nice going on in that country, is there? They've got nothing to look forward to. There's nothing nice for him to think about. So maybe this is a little bit of joy that he can take back. Maybe I don't know. It's impossible to say, mate. Isn't it? Very, very tough. But I get what you're saying. He might be training, but his mind might not be on it. He might not be putting it all in 100% in training. He might turn up on fight night and his mind might not be on it.
If AJ wins, right, we're going to get a super fight in London. AJ versus Usyk. Oh, sorry, AJ versus Fury. A super fight like we haven't seen before.
It'll be massive if that takes place.
Yeah.
So Jack Gladman in the sidebar says that another site is in line for the Usyk Joshua fight, not Saudi, but not the UK either.
Where?
Wow. Okay.
Dubai, maybe.
And then that guy says Ergovic, who at this point a lot of people had him as a killer at points. So he's obviously a bit of an Ergovic fan. Ergovic, that must be on your point, Sean. Didn't you raise Ergovic?
Yeah, well, he's going to be mandatory because he's fighting Zhang on the Canelo card, isn't he? So And you know what the IBF are like, so that could be another spanner in the works, really, if it's similar to when Fiore beat Klitschko, what they've done there. So that may be one to keep an eye on.
Yeah.
I think eventually the belts are going to have to get split up because there's too many people waiting. The division's got held up, hasn't it, for a good couple of years now. Yeah, it's tough on the fighters that hold the belts because that's why you don't get very many undisputed fighters in this modern era, the 4-belt era, because there's so much politics go on. You know, these 4 belts that have mandatories. They all want the mandatories to fight, so it's hard to make that undisputed fight in a lot of divisions unless they get it on quick. So it might not even happen. You know, like you say, Sean, someone could call the mandatory and not step aside. The reason AJ became a 3-belt champion was because Eddie Hearn did a great job at paying people off, paying mandatories off, so they'd step aside and wait.
Yeah, let's call it step aside when it's show.
Well, same difference, mate, isn't it? It's what would you describe payoff as? It's exactly that.
Yeah, I'd rather call it step aside money. So Jack Gladman says WBA mandatory next winner of Yuri Fiore fight. He goes on to say if Yuri wins, there'll be no undisputed title fight.
Is he fighting? Who's he fighting next?
Has it been announced yet?
Is it not? I can't remember.
Has that Daniel Dubois fight been announced yet for the WBA?
No.
I didn't think it had, because that was due to be announced, wasn't it? Against the legend that is Trevor Bryan.
I think everything's kind of taken a back seat. They've been waiting to get this Fiore fight out of the way, and I think a lot will happen now in the next few weeks. A lot of things will get brought out because, like Carl said, I don't think anybody wanted anything overshadowed.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Sorry,
Andy, I saw that fight with Conor Benn and I can't remember his name anymore. But after the fight, Amir Khan came in the ring, and people were booing him in Manchester. What the hell? What's up with that? Like, this guy
because there weren't Amir Khan fans that came to the event, mate. That's why they booed him. What you need to realise, Little Penny, is Amir Khan.
He's quite.
He's not liked in the UK. He's not liked.
I wouldn't say he's not liked per se, but he's quite divisive. He's got some following around Bolton, hasn't he?
On the fight that he just had recently against Kell Brook, most of the crowd were his fans. You roll on a couple of weeks when he's not on the bill and none of his fans are in the arena, and that's how the rest of the UK feel about him.
But he's retired now, right? Like he's not like.
How do you know? Has it?
Sorry?
Has he retired?
Oh, I don't know. But he's like Carl. You know what I mean? Like he's not longer in his prime. It's like, and this guy is highly decorated too. He won a silver medal, right? From my understanding.
I'll give my opinion, Little Penny. I think the British boxing public are a little bit pissed off that Amir Khan had all the fanfare of the Olympics. He got a big deal and then turned his back on the UK British boxing public and went and signed the contract with Golden Boy.
But he wanted to conquer America. Like, isn't that like what most people would do anyway? Like, what's he? Because there was no apart from Kell Brook, who was he supposed to fight in Britain?
Well, that's the problem. He didn't fight Kell Brook, did he? And that's what the British public didn't like. They wanted him to take that fight, come back and take that fight, and he wouldn't do it.
Yeah, I agree. I think Khan did duck Kell Brook, but Khan fought everybody in America and beat most of them. That's why, and it was an exciting fighter to watch too.
Yeah.
And also, Khan brought a few fights in Britain too. It's not like he solely fought.
Yeah, the Bradish Prescott one. I remember that one quite well.
The Kotelnik fight, wasn't that Kotelnik fight in London, in Britain as well?
I'll give you another fight as well with the Barrera fight that I think was a bit of a disgrace. bearing in mind
The problem is he fought all of his best fights against the biggest fighters were all in America. So British fans were having to get up at stupid o'clock in the morning to watch him.
And if you compare him to Ricky Hatton built his fundamental fan base in Manchester, where he was from. So he conquered America, but he had all of Britain behind him because they was on the journey with him. Whereas Amir Khan, he sort of sold us all off and went to America, and he never really had that sort of core fan base behind him.
talking of Ricky Hatton, have you seen that he's going to be fighting Marco Antonio Barrera?
Oh, yeah. It's an exhibition. Yeah, I saw that.
Me and Andy was invited to the press conference tomorrow in London, just to show how big time we are now.
Wow. Congratulations.
So, to even sidebar, says I like Conor Ben, but it is how they're trying to shove him down people's throats that rubs everyone the wrong way. The same way that Top Rank is pushing Ali's grandkids on everyone.
Yeah.
I like Conor Ben. I like because he goes for the KO. I like that.
Yeah.
He should have Venetian next, don't you think?
We all say that, mate, but unfortunately, that's not going to happen.
Why not?
Yeah.
Because you don't want it.
Oh.
Well, sorry. Let me rephrase. His management don't want it.
What about Broner? He might fight. Broner would be a good one. Like,
yeah, that's probably the fight that'll happen because Broner's past his best, isn't it?
I reckon he'll knock out Broner.
It's a bit frustrating. It's a bit frustrating. I'm with you, Little Penny. I'm a big Conor Ben fan. I like how aggressive he is. It's very entertaining because just like his dad, you never know what's going to happen. Because of his aggressive style, there's a very good chance he gets knocked out. But he's shown massive, and Carlo will dig me out for this because he does every time I say it. He showed a massive improvement curve for me. You know, you think back to the Pinal fight. He lost that fight, in my opinion. You look at how much better he is now than he was then. But he still needs to fight people, mate. He still needs to fight what we call on the channel a live opponent. Because everybody has fought so far, albeit that they've been names in the past and they've fought for world titles, some of them been world champions. They're not there now. They're past way past the best. So he's got a name on his record, brilliant. But that isn't helping him when it comes to the next stage in his career. He needs to fight live opponents, and you know it's well documented. He's been offered the Avanesian fight, and like I've said to Carl, I don't think for 1 second that it's Ben that's turning these fights down. I think it's his management and his promoter that's turning them down because they're trying to guide him in a certain way, and fighting David Avanesian is not the way to go if you're trying to guide a fighter. I'd love to see that fight as well. But in my opinion, he's not ready. I've said it before. In my opinion, he's not ready for Avanesian. He needs to fight someone like Danny Garcia for me.
Yes. But Danny Garcia can't make 147 anymore.
Can he not?
No, I think he wants to go to 154 now.
He's still in the rankings, mate. He's still number 5 or 6 in most of the governing bodies. So if he can't make the weight, then fair enough.
Andy, fight guys like Josecito Lopez, these types of fighters, you know.
He needs to fight. He needs to fight. He needs to fight someone in the top 10 in the rankings. Because at the minute he's not been there. He's not done that.
Or better yet, Keith Thurman. Offer Keith Thurman a huge payday. Yeah, that would be a good fight for him. I think he'll beat Thurman at this point of view because Thurman is a little washed now.
I mean, there's some big names like Cody Crowley that he can fight.
Who? Have you ever heard of him, Little Penny?
Are we going there again, old Sean?
No, I'm just throwing a big, massive name out there.
Let me just make a note of his name. Oh, in fact, I looked for my notes on Thursday. What was his name? Cody what?
Crowley.
Have you heard of that, Little Penny? Let's do the test. You've not, have you?
But by the way, does Conor Ben have an affiliation with a soccer team? Like, I feel like he doesn't. Like, usually most
West Ham. No, he has, Andy. It's West Ham.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Do West Ham fans like him?
He's starting to get a following. He's starting to get a
Yeah,
following.
yeah,
The problem is he's not made anywhere his home. You know, let's take AJ as an example. The O2 was his home, wasn't it? And unless he fought at Wembley, the O2 was his home. Conor Ben's not got anywhere that's his home. He's fought in Manchester a couple of times. He's fought in Liverpool a couple of times, but he's based in Essex. So he has fought in London. He has fought the O2, Wembley Arena, but he's not made anywhere his home. I think that's what they need to do to give him that identity, to give him that base following. I think what Matchroom are trying to do with him, what Eddie Hearn's trying to do, is they're trying to make him a UK superstar. They're trying to take him around the country and build a fan base that way. Which, yeah, it's starting to happen, yeah, but also real boxing fans like ourselves, they're getting frustrated with it. They're getting frustrated with the fighters that are getting rolled out in front of him, and he's just taking them out. You know, I think he's capable, and I've said this, and Carl laughs at me for it. I think he's capable of winning a world title. How long? A year from now, mate. I said a year ago on this show. We've been running about a year now, Little Penny. And a year ago on the show, I said if he and this was the caveat. I said if he carries on with the improvement curve he's showing currently, he could win a world title within 2 years. That was a year ago. The fact that the last 4 or 5 fights have been against past their best fighters.
You better hope someone vacates. You better hope someone vacates.
Isn't helping but it's not helping his improvement curve, is it? Because it's not testing him against the very best. What should have happened is he should have gone down the traditional British route, as we call it, and fought for the British title, fought for the Commonwealth title, fought for the European title. He's not fought for none of them, mate. They've gone the other route, and they've taken him against European fighters to protect him, because it's a very, very, people, you hear British level and you probably think, well, that's not very good, but it's very tough. British level is very tough when you're at that stage, and then the next level, European, very tough. David Avanesian's European champion currently, very tough. But he's gone past. He's navigated his way around that, mate. He's gone a different route because they've done that to protect him. And they're saying they want to let him off the leash, and then they drag Amir Khan into the ring and try and make a fight, and then they call out Kell Brook. How's that?
I like that Kell Brook fight. That Kell Brook fight's not bad.
Oh, come on, mate. Come on. Kell Brook is well past his best. Come on.
It's a good money fight, though.
Yeah, but it shouldn't be about money, should it? The guy's trying to become world champion. Eddie Hearn's tailing him out, saying he's world level. But saying they need to test him against the very best, and then they're calling out Kell Brook.
Kell Brook can't make 147 anyway. I think he's going to fight Chris Eubank Jr. Right?
Yeah.
He is, yeah. He is. So yeah. In my opinion, he either fights David Avanesian, because that's what everybody in the UK are calling for, or he needs to fight somebody within the top 10. And then if he beats that person, he needs to fight somebody higher up in the top 10, and so on and so forth.
Andy, you might get his wish, because if Bud Crawford fights Errol Spence, after that fight, the belts will probably be split, because both Bud and Errol, they want to go up to 154, regardless of whoever wins. So he might fight for a vacant title with Avanesian. That could be like in the vacant IBF welterweight fight between Ben and Avanesian.
It's the only way he's winning a world title, because he ain't beating any of them world champions up there at the minute.
What I'm hoping doesn't happen, though, Little Penny, I'm hoping that this doesn't happen, and I think it will. A title becomes vacant, and then Eddie Hearn works his magic and he fights for a world title against somebody that's not world level.
Yeah. But they have to be ranked.
I sincerely hope that doesn't happen.
Well, he's only going to have 2 fights now between now and April.
But these things happen, mate. They happen. Boxing's like that. I don't want to use a certain word, but boxing's like that. Other people have won world titles when they shouldn't be world champions. Charles Martin is a prime example. He's not anywhere near a European level or British level, in my opinion. If he was English, he wouldn't be anywhere near that level. Never mind world level. But he ended up in a position where he was fighting for a world title.
Going back to your point now about making Conor Benn a sort of household name in certain areas, what they should do, because he's from Essex, that's what East London really.
Yeah.
The copper box is there for him. What's that? 11,000 maybe. Fight Avanesian there, for example, or a couple of fights there. Build him up so he's got a core fan base there, and then when he's ready, the West Ham Stadium's across the road. Okay, it's 60,000, but at least they'll have the basis of him being in the area and build up a fan base for him to sort of fill the stadium.
Yeah,
I think that's what you need to do.
I agree. At the minute, it's a big smoke screen. You could have Conor Benn headlining against Keith Thurman at the O2 and sell it out. I agree, but it would need a strong undercard.
The thing is, as well, is Conor Benn's still a young man. He's got plenty of years left in him. The problem is because of the way they've pushed him and the way they're spinning the whole situation of him saying he's now world level. He can't go backwards. He could have fought and won titles, like I say, at British, Commonwealth and European level, but because they haven't taken him that way, and that would in itself, in my opinion, that would have built a fan base. Because people would have seen him winning titles, but boxing fans aren't stupid. So what they're seeing is they're seeing him taking on fighters like I've already said. They're seeing him taking on fighters that are past the best that they're all expecting him to beat anyway.
Hey Sean, can I ask you a quick question? Can if Conor Benn fights Keith Thurman, can he sell out that brand new stadium at West Ham?
No.
Right.
No? Okay. Wow. Okay. I thought he would have.
Unless there's a strong undercard that will pay with some good ticket sellers on it.
Yeah, he's not got quite a big enough following at the minute, mate. That's why Eddie Hearn's taking him around the country to try and build that. I mean, the thing is, I mean, he's got a massive name, hasn't he? From his dad, and that's a difficult thing to have hanging over your head.
Yeah.
The problem is he started off a lot of his life. He started off over your way in Australia.
Yes.
And then he's come back obviously because the UK has a better boxing situation and everybody knows the name Ben. So it works both ways. You can't have it both ways, can you? You've come to England because everybody knows the name Ben to build a boxing career, but then the pressure's on you because the name's Ben, and everyone wants you to be as good as your dad. So it's tough on him. But it is what it is, And had his name not been Ben, he wouldn't be getting the push that he's getting from Matchroom. No two ways about it. With his talent, but like I say, mate, I'll say it again. He's come on massively. He's looking very, very good, very sharp, very dangerous. He just now needs to prove it at that next level for me.
He gets hit a lot sometimes, Andy. That's why I worry about.
That's why he's exciting, though, mate, isn't it? That's why he's exciting. He doesn't think about defence. Is that gonna cause him troubles? Of course it is. Nigel Benn as a legendary name, but if you look on his record, he lost. He didn't go his career without losing. He got knocked out. He didn't go his career without getting knocked out. But he's a legend because of how brave he was and because he fought anybody.
A loss doesn't bother me.
It makes fighters, don't it?
Yes.
But that in my opinion, I've said it to Carl that Conor Benn's one of these fighters, and it doesn't happen very often, but he's one of these fighters that gets you on the edge of your seat, in my opinion anyway. It gets me on the edge of my seat because you never know what's going to happen.
It doesn't me.
Conor was the same fighter, edge of your seat fighter.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, I agree. He was.
Conor Ben will get me on the edge of my seat when he fights a live opponent. Full stop. Because at the minute it's too one-sided. It bores me, if I'm honest with you. It bores me.
Really?
Because it's the same old rhetoric. He'll do the pre-fight press conference where he'll tell us that he'll fight anybody. Then he gets in the ring with a washed-up fighter. Then we all get a bit excited that he's going to jump in with someone of note, and they start bringing Amir Khan in the ring and talking about Kell Brook. So he's in a great division, a great weight class. So he surely can find a fringe world opponent to jump in with him. The money should be there, shouldn't it? Because we keep getting told is a world class boxer there. So I think it's due time that Eddie sorts it out.
Carl, does he have a chin? You think does Conor Ben have a chin?
Do we know? How do we know? He hasn't been anyone who's going to. Well, early days he took a few shots, didn't he? But I don't know. Until he jumps in with someone who's got some pedigree, how are we to know?
Carl, if he does have a chin, he will win a world champion because he's got power.
Yeah. Again, do we know what that power carries like? Do we know?
If it's firm or whoever, do we think his next fight will be DAZN pay-per-view in the UK?
No.
He's still ready for that.
He's not a big enough name for pay-per-view yet, in my view, Sean. Is he on?
No, but the way Eddie Hearn's been pushing it and sort of telling us he's off the leash, that implies to me that that's the avenue they're going down, I think.
I mean, Eddie Hearn said he'll only use a pay-per-view model when it's two fighters where the purse deems it's the only viable option. Well, Conor Ben, surely his purse aren't coming in that high yet, are they?
Sean, not even Canelo against Bivol is pay-per-view in the UK. We're getting it at the normal streaming rate. The US have got to pay for it as a pay-per-view. We haven't on DAZN. So if he's not going to make that fight pay-per-view, he certainly isn't going to make Conor Ben pay-per-view.
Oh, by the way, Canelo wants to fight in England in December. Did you hear about that?
Yeah, I'll be there. If he does, I'll be there.
Against Beterbiev, maybe.
Well, I've got a bad feeling it's going to be against Ryder. John Ryder.
Sorry, yes.
Yeah, it's a gimme fight for me. But so in the sidebar, that guy says, how do you all feel about Evanesian signing with Frank? Well, we'll be here till about 4 o'clock on this one. Go on, Andy. I'll let you take it first, and we'll move on.
What a great question, that guy. Right, so Evanesian had a couple of fight deal with Matchroom. I'll tell you my little tale, and then what I suggest you do is there's an interview with David Evanesian's manager, Neil Marsh. Quite insightful. Neil Marsh tells the interviewer about what happened around this time. So I'll tell you what I think, and it's very simple. So he had a couple of fight deal with Matchroom. The Josh Kelly fight took forever to happen. It got cancelled 3 or 4 times, I believe. By this point, Evanesian is sitting stale because he didn't cancel any of the fights. Kelly cancelled them all. Some of them really close to fight date as well. Eventually, that fight happens, and Josh Kelly was being touted as a golden boy, the next big thing, and Matchroom believed, and Kelly's camp believed that he was going to beat David Evanesian. The Evanesian camp, Neil Marsh, Cole Greaves, were absolutely convinced that David Evanesian would do a number on him, and that's exactly what he did. And for whatever reason, the fight that was left on the contract with Matchroom, Neil Marsh says, and it's obviously you're only hearing one side of the story there, but Neil Marsh says they were promised a interim world title fight or a final eliminator world title fight. It never transpired. They ended up fighting Taylor, was it? think it was it Taylor? Who was the fight after Kelly? Sean, do you remember?
I don't think he had one, did he? With Matchroom after that.
Did he not have another one with Matchroom? So anyway, that's the situation. So he had no choice. Frank Warren offered him a really good deal, and Frank Warren's promised that he's going to provide these big fights. The unfortunate thing is, he signs with Frank Warren. He then gets made to number 2 in the rankings with the WBC. The WBC then try and make the final eliminator with Ortiz Jr. Ortiz Jr. doesn't want it. He goes and fights Mickinson or makes the Mickinson fight and then becomes ill, and that fight don't happen. But all this is going on. Eason sat there waiting, not having opponents, and the European belt mandatory's come up, and he has to then fight for the European title to keep it. I mean, what's he meant to do as a fighter? Is he meant to just sit there and wait for the WBC to pull the finger out of the butt and finally make the final eliminator? Or does he defend the belt he's got? Is the question. So it looks like Frank Warren's made a couple of really poor fights, and he's fought level fighters that are levels below him, and he has fought fighters that are levels below him, but he's had no choice. The mandatory for the European belt didn't want the fight, so the EBU found him another fighter, which ended up being the guy that he fought last, Metz. And he had no choice. He had to fight him. Well, you can only beat the people that are in front of you, unfortunately. So they now sat waiting for the WBC again for this final eliminator fight. It's either going to be likely to be against Keith Thurman or Ortiz Jr. again, if he finds his nuts when he gets better.
I suppose the issue I have with it all is they say that Eason doesn't want to fight anyone. I mean, I don't know the ins and outs like you guys, but why not offer Mickinson a fight for Eason? If he's not in Matchroom sort of high plans, I'm sure he could fight him. But it seems to me that it's all well and good saying that fighters turn fights down and whatnot, but the way I see it, they haven't sort of gone out their way to provide a tough fight or an eliminator for him. They've been sort of waiting on it rather than sort of on the front foot looking for it.
I hear what you're saying, mate. I obviously, I don't know the ins and outs of what Frank Warren's doing behind closed doors. He could be on with pushing the WBC. We don't know. You can only see what is put in front of him, and we've had a conversation with Carl Greaves on the show. There's an interview you can go and watch with us interviewing with Carl Greaves. Carl's a very, very straight man, and you can tell in the interview how frustrated he is with the whole situation. He knows he's got a genuine world-class fighter, and he wants a world title for him. He wants a world title fight for him, and it's just not happening at the minute. They're having to fight people that they know they're going to beat easily, and it is when when a European body offer a fighter, you either take the fight, mate, or you don't take the fight and you get stripped.
Well, it's got, and also from a financial perspective, Evan needs to keep active, don't he?
Of course he does.
Yeah. So he's going to jump in and face these mandatories.
So I've gone round the asses there, that guy. I've gone round the asses there, but I think Frank Warren. I genuinely think Frank Warren is trying to get in the best fights he can get in, and because he's sat at number 2, they don't want to lose that number 2 ranking. They want to keep the number 2 ranking, which means to do that they've got to wait for the WBC to make that final eliminator, and it needs to be against number 1 or number 3, or if the number 1 and number 3 don't want it, he then goes to number 4, which I think might be Danny Garcia. I'm not sure. I don't hold me to that. Boots Ennis was number 3. I think he's decided to go down a different route with the WBA. So he might have dropped out of the rankings. I'm not 100% sure on that.
He's the future of the welterweight division, Boots Ennis, if he stays there.
Yeah.
Yeah, very dangerous, mate. Very dangerous, and he's obviously planning his career into it. He don't want to necessarily fight too much of a dangerous fight too early in his career. He wants to build to that, and you can't fault him for that.
I think he's ready, Andy.
I think he's quality, mate. I agree with you. It makes a great fight against Avanesyan, that fight. Same with Ortiz, great fight against Avanesyan. Same with Keith Thurman. But
I don't think Ortiz will stay at 147, Andy. I think he'll go to 154 because he's sick at the moment.
Keith Thurman?
Yeah, he's not well. No, Ortiz.
Ortiz.
Yeah, he's not
well.
He's
not well. Yeah, that's why the fight didn't happen with Mickinson. That was meant to happen a couple of weeks back, wasn't it? Yeah. Mickinson ended up fighting another guy into just to keep the fight on the bill. So yeah, to answer that question, I know we've gone around the asses. To answer that question, I think Warren's got his best interests at heart. It's very difficult though, when you see a show and there's not a million people in the crowd. People start pointing fingers and saying, "Is this or is that or is the other? He's not a ticket seller. He's not this. He's not that." Believe me, they sold a lot of tickets for the Josh Kelly fight. A lot of people watched the Josh Kelly fight.
And believe me, he would have sold more tickets against Ben than Van Heeden did.
Yeah, that was Eddie Earn's argument for not making the David Avanesyan fight was that David Avanesyan's not a big enough name in the UK and doesn't sell tickets.
Which is nonsense. Well, on that note, guys, it's 25-2 in the morning over in the UK. I know, Little Penny, what is it, 12:35 where you are, but heading through lunchtime, so that's why you look a bit fresher than we do.
Hey, Carl, can I make a quick request? I know you guys have interviewed Hopewell, who's
Nicola Hopewell, yeah.
Nicola.
Yeah, I enjoyed those interviews. Can I make a request that you guys interview Sky Nicholson?
Yeah, we can try, mate. Absolutely, yeah.
Would you like to join us, Little Penny, if we can sort the time zones out, if we make that happen?
Yeah, all right, okay, yeah, because she's like making a lot of noise at the moment.
Yeah, she talks very well, mate. She was on a card a while, but I can't remember what card it was. What card was it, Carl? She was on.
It was one of the. Oh, you got me there.
Was it Warrington? Was it the Warrington card?
My mind's gone to mush.
It was the Warrington card, wasn't it? She was on very early on that show, and they had her doing some commentary, and interviewed her a little bit about some of the fights later on, and she talked very, very well.
She did.
She's got a very bright future.
She's on the Katie Taylor card, isn't she, next week as well?
Oh, is she? Okay.
Yeah, but leave that with us, Little Penny. I'm not in the habit of taking requests, but seeing it as you.
KT by unanimous decision, by the way, Sean. Sean, who you got?
Yeah, I think Katie Taylor will win, yeah.
Let me stop you there, guys. Don't steal the thunder. We're going to talk about this in depth on Thursday. No, it's all right, mate. We're going to talk about this in depth on Thursday. That's the Thursday show.
Yeah. So
7 p.m. guys, UK time. I know that's very early doors for you, Little Penny, but if you are able to join us, please do. We'd love your opinions on it. Thanks to everyone in the sidebar. Unfortunately, because I'm on my phone today, I can't see the comments, so I don't know where everybody's coming from, but by the sounds of it, we've got people from all over the world, which is brilliant.
Yeah.
Thanks to Little Penny for joining us from New Zealand. Thanks for Sean again, becoming a regular. Like, comment, subscribe if you're watching the show for the first time. This show's all about having boxing fans on with opinions. Everyone has a different opinion. I know I got a little bit frustrated earlier on in the night, but again, my opinion. And we'll see you next week.